Okay, hello everyone. This is the reactive dynamic forms demo. I'm showing the demo first, then we can jump to the code. Here is the form builder or the template creator. We can add new sections to the form. We can use this form in for example, category creation in some order management system or in the service system. For example, we have some types. For each type, we have to define some dynamic form for that type or category or whatever. So this is a web block. We can use it in wherever we want. So the form can define from multiple sections. Each section has a name, section 1, section 2, and they are ordered. This is the sequence of to showing them inside the form. Then we can add multiple fields, field 1, field 2, for each section. Okay, we can define one of these types: text, number, checkbox, date time, time, drop down, and multiple tags and radio buttons. So if we choose one of these last three, then I need to define the options of that drop down, for example. So let me add some option here: option 1 and option 2. Also it has a sequence to show them in order. We can define one of the fields as mandatory or not. Okay, we can remove any fields or section or even option when we show the drop down options. Now we completed the designing the form. We click save. The form saved successfully. If we go to the run form and we refresh the screen, then it will show the generated form or the created form here as a generated form here in runtime. So if I try to submit, then it shows that this is required. If I select option one, and here paste value, and I submit, then the form submitted successfully. So I can refresh to check the data is there. So this version of the form, we can use it in mobile applications. We can pass to this block or this form some record ID. Okay, suppose the product ID that we are filling this field to that product, especially for that product. So for each product, we'll have separate data from other one. So as you can see, it's so simple. This also anytime I can refresh the design form, for example. Now because we have data filled to this, we cannot change the type, but we still can be we add field this field. For example, with the number. Okay, we can remove this option, okay, and add another option. Okay, so whatever the changes you did here, once you click save, we can add section also or remove section. Once you click save, all this structure will be saved, okay, one time. So now we can see here, this is the new, I'm trying to write characters here, but I cannot because it's only number. So I click submit again, the data is stored. So it's just simple reactive dynamic form that we can use in mobile and reactive applications. Let's move to the code now. Now here we have the core module of the application. The core only have the data, the entities. If we can see here, form, field data, which has the runtime data. This is the record ID that I mentioned, that we need to link the field data to that record, such as the product ID, for example. And here it can contain one of these values. The field, which has field type, one of the field types that we just seen here, and it has the section ID. It follows one of the sections, and it has order and mandatory. The section, it belongs to a form, and we can have multiple forms that we want. This is the entities, and this is the logic. We have only two public methods here, or actions that to be used when we need to save a design form. Okay, the form that we here, when we click submit, we call this. So in this case, if it's a new form, we just call the create. If it has version number or not. So if this should create a new version of the form, so the previous, for example, records, okay, products will have the old version of the forms, but any new product or record will have the new version of the form. So here we can call for, but if it's not, if it doesn't support the versioning, we just update the existing form, so it will reflect to all all the records, the new and the old. Okay, we use the soft delete. We don't delete anything here. We only use the soft delete. So when we do the update existing form, we are checking we are adding new fields and sections first, then the fields, then the options of those fields. Also, we are deleting the deleted records. Okay, we here delete the sections, then we delete the fields, and for each fields we delete all of its options. This soft delete, as I mentioned. And here, if the current section is not to be deleted, then we need to check if whether there is any field is deleted within that section. Also, here we are checking if the fields is deleted or not. Then if it's deleted, we need to delete all the options that attached to that field. If not, then we need to check whether there is any option should be deleted. So we have multiple functions and actions here to do this kind of updating. The other one is just to save the consumed form data. When we move to the screen here, we can have these blocks, the runtime form. It will generate or trigger an event with data of type of the source. This is list of field data. So the only thing here, we just need to loop on all the sources, attach the record ID that belongs to the data belongs to this record ID. We updated the record ID, and we just create or update the field. So it will save the data from the run form. This one, when I click submit, I call this one. So when I click submit, a trigger will collect the data from the form and send it to the handler. The handler will only call directly this action and pass to it this list of data, which is already is triggered by the form itself. So this core has also some roles. So for security purposes, we should have one the consumer or designer when we need to call this or this. Okay, this is the save design form, which is the form template. So you should have the form designer role to be able to access to this action. And also for the consumed form, which is, for example, the mobile user, which is filled the product information form, he should have the form consumer role. So this is the first core module. Then we will move to the UI module. We have here multiple web block. Two of them are public, which is design form and the run form. Okay, the others are used inside this. So we have dynamic field here. It's just if else based on the field type. Then I show the UI for that type. Also, we have here dynamic radio buttons, because in the current radio group, it doesn't support dynamic options or list inside the radio group, so we cannot add dynamic options for that. So I created some web block here usable. that it can handle multiple options. So I can pass the options it on it, and is read only, is mandatory. The selected value, this is only if we have already selected value, so we need to pass it and pre-populated the data here. So this is kind of new widget, you can say, but I used inside it the normal radio button, but with some with using list and some logic here in the initialize and the trigger. I also created one web block, which is the multiple selection. It's the same as a drop-down tags, but as you know, the drop-down tags can work with list of values. But in our case, we have one field for the value in the database, in the entity. So the value of the field data, which is here multiple option value, it's a text which should be comma separated ID. Okay, the selected value. So here I wrap this drop down tags with this private or special web block to handle the comma separated value. Okay, so in initialize I'm just split the comma and generate the list of values that this drop down will take as a list of options. And also whenever I change anything, I'm just call this action, it will generate the comma separated value from the list of the selected value and triggers the value. So these are just helpful blocks. The main blocks are the design form and the run form. The design form, this one, the one that is used here, you can see that we have form code. The only thing that we need to pass, the mandatory thing or main thing, is the form code. The form code, you can consider it as the category ID that you need to define the form for it. Okay, so you can, I will show you in the demo how can we fill this. Here the submit button title, if we need to change save to submit or whatever, the cancel button title, show cancel button or not, it's just flags to hide and show here. Uh, in this design form, we are fetching the sections, and for each section, we are fetching the fields. And for each fields, we are fetching the options of that field. Okay. So this is the design form. We also this is the design form. We will go to the run form now. The run form is a list of fields, the dynamic field that we are just shown them. It also have the form code that it runs, or it depends on the designed one, and the record ID that this form belongs to. As I mentioned, the product, for example, that this form, the data of that form belongs to that record, so we store the record ID. And that's it. So easily you can use this. The get fields here, we are just fetching the data, and we are just looping and get all the necessary data to fill and pre-populate the form with the data, as you can see here. And also when I click save, then I'm just call this event with the list of field data that's used here in the server action here in the saved consumed data. So this is the run form. So let's go to the demo. The demo that we just here seen. This is the code of that demo. You can see here if I am in the main flow. This is the design form. The only thing I just use the web block. Okay, if you go here, it's just web block, and I pass here form code. I just use it for the demo. One local variable. I called it RDF1 or whatever you can call it, RDF, and plus the ID of the category that you are designing this template for it. So this is the design screen. So the only thing we are passing is this one, and here the caption save and don't show the cancel button. And when we save, click save here on that inside this form, we will handle that event with this design form action, which directly call the core module action, okay, and passing the same input parameters for it. In the run form, the same. We only use the web log. Okay, we pass here record ID. I suppose it one or two or three, or the ID that dynamically should link the data to that record. Okay. Here also submit. The form code is the same one. Default one should have the same structure or the F1. So we can show the same form that we are designed here in the design form screen as a demo. And when we handle this event of save, we call this, and the same thing, we only call the server action that defined in the core module. So we can pass the record ID, which is the same one that we passed to the weblog, and the source of data, which is the input parameter that comes from the event. So simply, as you can see, we can reuse these forms. One more thing, we also have something related to version number. Okay, so we can have multiple version of the forms. As you can see here, this one doesn't support the forms. If we can see here. The design form here in get sections when we save, or even here in the logic when we design form created. Okay, we can pass here that does create a new version, we are passing as false. So if we now remove this field, for example, and click save, nothing will be created. Okay, the only changes it will be happen on the same form, then it will be removed from this form. As you can see, the field 2 is hidden. But if we pass here true, then every time I click save, a new version of this form will be created. Okay, then the old data will be stick into the previous version, not to the current version. Only the new records. Okay, if I have, for example, record ID 2, okay, another one, so it will render the latest version of the forms, but the old data will stick into the version that created and submitted when was submitted this request or this form. Okay, so once the form is submitted, it will linked to the version that created at that time. So as you can see, simply we can use and consume and design the forms with these types of data type of the fields. Okay, so far. In the future, we will have dependencies, so we can define that this field, for example, that it depend on another field or another option inside another field. So that's my next plan for this form builder or dynamic form. But for now, I will just simply use this to be supported to support only this kind of field type, text, number, and this just list only the fields. That's it. Thank you for watching.